the past, Pacific Island fishermen made up their own fishing gear using traditional materials. Wooden hooks were rigged onto hand-braided lines, which was a simple yet effective way to catch some species of bottom fish. Another method used to improve the catch was magic. These magic devices were used in Tokelau. Today, wooden hand reels are used in nearly every Pacific Island country. The combination of a hand reel, a strong monofilament line and steel hooks make very simple and effective bottom fishing gear. Even more modern developments in navigation and the introduction of depth sounding equipment has further improved the effectiveness of bottom fishing. And now, one of the most recent developments in deep bottom fishing on board fishing vessels is the introduction of hydraulic systems. The development of hydraulic technology during the last 20 years has allowed commercial fishermen to fish deeper, develop newer fishing methods, and save back-breaking hours of hauling lines or nets by hand. Hydraulic systems can be large and complex, or quite simple. One of the simplest systems commonly used in the Pacific by commercial fishermen is this one, the hydraulic reel for deep bottom fishing. Hydraulic systems consist of 4 basic components: a reservoir for oil storage, an engine-driven pump which pumps the oil from the reservoir through a series of valves to the drive motor. The series of valves control the pressure, flow and direction of the oil through the system, and strong hose or pipes with special connectors join the system together so that the oil is continuously pumped through the system and back to the reservoir. Although it is fairly expensive to fit, this reel system allows the fisherman more catching time for less effort. The increased efficiency of this method can make up for the extra expense. Fishing with hydraulic reels is very similar to using wooden hand reels. The type of fishing line used on hydraulic reels should be a strong braided line such as Super Toto. The more common nylon monofilament should not be used. Because it is so stretchy, it may crush the reel when wound up with a heavy weight on the line. The branch line rigged by these students is a combination of Super Toto line and monofilament snoods. The use of 3-way swivels will prevent the branch line from tangles when hauling a big fish or several fish at once. The branch line is rigged with 5 hooks. Tuna circle hooks number 12, 13 and 14 are the ones commonly used by commercial fishermen. Once completed, the branch line is attached to a sinker which can be made of rebars. Depending on the current and the fisherman's preference, the sinker will be chosen in the range of 1 to 2 kilograms. An important step in the gear preparation before the fishing is to mark the main line a few meters above the branch line. To do this, masking tape can be used. While hauling the line, the fisherman should watch over the side of the boat. When the mark appears from the deep, the reel must be slowed down to avoid accidents. A line which is not watched can cause severe injuries if the hooks and sinker come flying in over the side. When the fishing gear is ready, the skipper of the boat will need to decide where to stop the boat for fishing. This important decision will determine the success of the trip. The use of an echo sounder will greatly assist the skipper in his decision, as each targeted species has its preference with regards to depth and bottom type. White snappers are found in depths of 80 to 150 meters, while red snappers live in the range of 150 to 400 meters. Both of these valuable species are caught on the drop-off area of barrier and offshore reefs, as well as around underwater sea mounts. When the fishing ground is located, the boat should be anchored taking into account the wind direction and bottom configuration. For many fishermen, the best bait for deep bottom fishing is skipjack. Other fishermen prefer squid because it holds well on the hook. However, when skipjack and squid are not available, other species like barracuda, atule or mullet can be used. Using a chum bag can be very effective to attract fish. The bag can be made of any strong cloth like denim. It is tied to the swivel above the branch line. The chum is made of finely chopped fish guts and bones. If available, fish meal can be added with water to the mixture. Sand can also be mixed in. A ball of chum is put into the bag, which is then folded so the chum cannot fall out while going down. The fishing action really begins when the sinker is put in the sea. Handling the hydraulic reel requires constant attention from the fisherman. When unwinding the line, the reel should turn at a low speed, otherwise the line will overrun and tangle. When the sinker reaches the bottom, the control lever should be put to neutral and the line jerked in order to get the chum out of the bag. Patience is now required for these fishermen waiting for bites. When a fish is hooked, the control lever should be moved to the hauling position. Be careful to do this the right way. Take care not to haul your line too fast. Fast hauling may cause break-offs or damage your catch due to fast decompression. Do not forget to coil the line uniformly on the reel and to carefully watch the line over the rail of the boat. When the line marker comes up, turn down the speed of the reel and grab your catch. Immediate and correct handling will preserve the quality of the fish and ensure a high price for the catch. Spike the fish in the brain and put it in a slurry made of ice and seawater. This is the quickest way to lower its core temperature. The number of bites depends on many factors, including the depth, the tide, and time. When the fishing is too slow, it may be preferable to try other grounds. If the weather is fine, the skipper might even decide to carry on fishing all night. That can be the best way to fill your icebox. Remember that strict procedures must be followed to use hydraulic reels successfully. Use chum bags to attract more fish to your bait. When winding up, always watch the line over the side of the boat. Never haul the line too fast. This can only damage your catch and increase the risk of accidents. In the bottom long lining operation, a number of branch lines are attached to the main line, and the setting and retrieving of the long line requires a coordinative effort from all the crew. The hydraulic device used in this fishing technique is the line hauler. There are many types of bottom long lines. The one shown here is a 100 hook long line with 20 pressure floats. The pressure floats hold the main line above the seabed and prevent tangles and cuts in the line from rough bottoms and coral. The different components of our bottom long line are 2 surface floats. They're used to mark both ends of the long line. For this purpose, big inflatable windy buoys are the best. 2 float lines, which are made of 12mm polypropylene rope. Their length will be chosen according to the depth and current. For a good safety margin, the float line length should be approximately 1.5 times the depth. For instance, for For shallow waters up to 130 meters, a 200-meter float line should be used. For deeper fishing, add 100-meter rope lengths accordingly. 2 5-kilogram grapnels made of rebars. These short grapnels are tied to the bottom end of each float line. The main line should be an 8 or 10 millimeter polypropylene rope. Both ends of the main line will be tied to the float lines 5 meters above the grapnels. Do not use sinking ropes like Kurlon or nylon because they will increase the chance of the main line getting caught on the bottom. The pressure floats hold the main line above the bottom. Heavy-duty floats like these are not widely available. They must be ordered overseas and are fairly expensive. However, using them is recommended, especially when fishing on rough bottoms. Pressure floats are clipped onto the main line every 20 meters. The branch line should be made of nylon monofilament of 100 kilogram breaking strength. 5 snoods of 60 to 80 kilogram breaking strength are tied to 3-way swivels on each branch line. A 100 hooks long line requires 20 branch lines and 20 pressure floats. The sinker keeps the branch line in contact with the bottom. It must be a bit heavier than the flotation of the pressure float. With 1 liter pressure floats, it is recommended to use 1.5 kilogram sinkers. An easy way to test this is to tie the weight you will use to the pressure float and make sure it sinks the float when placed in a bucket of water. This student is making up sinkers and grapnels for the long line. Two other trainees are measuring the main line and splicing red marks on it every 20 meters. These marks will serve as a guide for the crew when clipping the branch lines onto the main line. The rest of the group are making up branch lines and snoods. To rig a 5-hook branch line, you need 2 long line snaps with swivels of the type that can clip on 10 millimeter ropes, 5 tuna circle hooks number 13 or 14, and some nylon monofilament. The snoods can be tied directly onto the branch line, but it is recommended to use 3-way swivels if you can get them. These will minimize the tangles when hauling in a big fish. It is very important to ensure that your knots will not break or slip off when a big fish is caught on the branch line. To prevent the loss of hooks, branch lines and sinkers, you must make very strong knots. The completed branch line holds 5 snoods which are spaced 80 centimeters from each other. The total length of the branch line is 5 meters. To store the branch lines, you can use plastic or wooden containers. The advantage of using wooden containers is that you can easily make cuts on the edge to hold the snoods. The black arrow indicates the first branch line to be taken out. On the way to fishing grounds, the crew prepares the first set. Bait is cut, the hooks are baited, float lines and main line are tied together, then grapnels are tied to float lines. You might consider using an easy release system for tying the grapnel. To do this, attach the float line to the head of the grapnel rather than to the eye in the stock. Use a light twine to attach the float line to the stock eye. If the grapnel becomes stuck, the twine will break first, allowing you to pull the head of the grapnel, reducing chance of lost gear. Before setting the long line, each piece of gear should be at the right place on the boat. When the right fishing ground is located on the echo sounder, the skipper will give the crew the starting signal. The windy buoy is then thrown overboard and the float line unwound quickly until the first grapnel is reached. The main line should be set with the current. Doing so, the main line will correctly fall on the seabed. The setting operation does not require more than 3 crew members working on the long line gear. One person oversees the main line and clips the pressure floats, while 2 others at the back clip the baited branch lines onto the main line. During the set, the skipper should carefully watch the echo sounder and check that the snoods do not get hooked onto one of his crew. The speed of the boat should be slow in relation to the speed at which the crew clips the branch lines. When all the branch lines have been set, the main line is held tight and the second grapnel thrown overboard. The float line is then unwound quickly and the second windy buoy put in the water. If the gear is well set up on board and the crew accustomed to this fishing method, the setting operation should not take longer than 10 minutes. The long line should only be in the water between 1 and 2 hours. After 2 hours, the bait is no longer effective and the catch may be damaged by sharks. This period of time can be used for a bit of trolling or bottom fishing with reels. Hauling the line should be done into the wind. To haul the line, the windy buoy should be gaffed and the float line pass through a pulley on the side of the boat. The line can then be fed into the line hauler. When the first grapnel is reached, it should be unfastened. The main line can then be untied from the float line and passed into the hauler. From now on, 2 crew are required to unclip pressure floats and branch lines while another crew coils the main line in its container. The first fish should then be coming up. During the hauling process, the skipper should carefully adjust the vessel's speed and direction according to the angle made by the line in the water. When used in good fishing grounds, this long line method can be very effective. On these occasions, it is not rare to catch several fish on the same branch line, which means a good income at the end of the trip. But it also means more work for the crew when it is time to untangle and fix the branch lines. The hauling process is now almost finished. The second grapnel is unfastened and the float line wound up. Unfortunately, work is not finished for these trainees. The catch has still to be recorded, spiked and iced. The branch lines must be checked and, if necessary, replaced or repaired for the next set. Remember that the bottom long line technique requires a coordinative effort from the entire crew. Before the set, the long line gear must be carefully prepared and the right fishing ground located on the echo sounder. Setting the long line should be done with the current, with constant attention from the skipper to his crew. The long line should not be left in the water more than 2 hours. Also, remember that hauling the line into the wind will make life much easier for the skipper. With careful attention to handling and icing the catch, these snappers will fetch a high price in retail stores, restaurants and export markets. Remember though, that fish quality is a key component to the success of deep bottom fishing operations.